What's up, guys? Welcome back to another scenario where civilization starts over in a nuclear fallout. And in this episode, we will be seeing some very important events happening. First major event we see happening is the um yellow team pushing into the cyan team, and they're going to push like this, spearheading over here, and they're going to completely cut off the aid from the pink team to the cyan team. So the pink team's going to get pushed back a lot by the cyan team. So here we see the yellow team pushing into the pink team. So the yellow team pushes into the pink team, and they're going to push actually generally farther than they've pushed in a while, with not much success in this war happening until recently, with more countries in Africa being on board and gaining power due to the colonial expansion. So colonial expansion is going to start being seen as a better thing in this episode. So more countries that weren't all the way for colonialism are like, colonialism's great. It's helping us win this war. And here we see with the freeing up of some of this land, it's going to go back to the dark blue nation, and they're going to free up all of their lands that the Italian nation took. Now this Italian nation is going to be pushed back a lot, and the blue Saharans are going to push into the pink team. So let's go ahead and see that. The blue Saharans are going to be like, all right, so you're gonna push a little bit, but we're gonna divide and conquer with our aid. So the blue team will be getting aid from the yellow team, but they're going to be pretty much just uniting their front lines under the blue team front line and pushing far into Rome, taking a major city. And Rome's going to be like, I don't like this war. And their people are going to be rebelling up. Their military is not going to be fighting much better than they should be. And they're going to disobey the government with mass killing of many military servicemen because they're not obeying because they don't want to die to the Africans. With this happening, sort of just the pink team leaves the war, and this will be a major event, but the pink team leaves the war, they're out. So these other mutant nations are going to be like, oh god, you're on our border. What do we do? They're going to start militarizing, and they're going to militarize down here because they are navally sending supplies down into like the Albanian colony, I guess. But after this, they're going to be like, colonialism is great, let's push for colonialism. So that's what they're going to do. So here we see the second Madagascar conference happening. This is the end of the final Madagascar conference for dividing up Africa. There is some new nations being formed because of African tribes in Africa, because there is lots of people in Africa in this civilization thingy. Um, Angola didn't get much land. The provinces need to be updated, but this is how it's divided. Lots of river borders. The mutants didn't get much land, so they're very mad at the colonizers. But other than that, they're going to just be like, all right, we gotta focus on defeating the mutants in Europe. So they're gonna be like, where can we attack from? They're going to be like, we got the Cyan team left, so let's try to do some naval invasions. They navally invade these three islands owned by the Iberian team, and they're going to make a naval landing up here. But then the other mutant nations are like, all right, so we got the Northern Rome nation. We need the Northern Rome nation. They're the most powerful nation here. So we see another powerful mutant union. These unions are popping up like crazy. At first it was the Persian Union. Now this civilization's shocked on how they're working together so well. So once this happens, the fronts collapse. And this nation is going to be pushing into old Roman lands, which is now their lands. So this Roman country will be pushing down into the Italian peninsula a lot, taking back their old lands, or whatever you want to call this now. But they ain't going to fully push them out. They're going to take back Albania though. But they're going to push them like to almost this river, and they're going to hold a defensive here. But the Cyan team is going to be almost fully wiped out of the war because they're putting so much resources into the Union front because they know their front's collapsing. So lots of their people are migrating into the Union Nation because they're scared that their country is going to collapse. And here it goes with a slow siege of their capital. Starting, they encircle the capital, slowly siege it, and then the Cyan team is out of the war. Their government gone. Their government building gone. Burnt to the ground. And here we see the I guess African Union giving up its land in Iberia to the Western African nation for them to hold on to. And they're going to be scared of this union. This union's going to be like, we're not scared. We're going to push back even more, freeing up this major city, and they're also going to get riots from down here and down here in this major city over here. But that'll be it for this war, and let's go on to another place. Here we see the Madagascarians expanding more into India. India is going to feel threatened by this, but they don't do anything. But here we see a major turn in events. So this pink team is going to be like, how about we finally intervene in this war? So let's go ahead and see what happens. With their ports around their cities over here around the eastern Mediterranean, they're going to make naval landings in this area and the southern Albanian areas, welcomed in with open arms from this Albanian area, but slowly not so welcoming. But they set up a defensive along this border, and the mutant nations struggling. And they're newly formed, they're united, they're powerfully united, they're happy, but they're struggling. They're struggling because they're not organized. They formed out of nowhere. Unlike the Persian Union, they weren't formed out of nowhere. They were planning it, they're more united, and they had a cause. A big cause. These guys did not know the humans were going to be after them 100%. So, here we just see a collapse in the front line slowly. And they're also going to slowly take more cities, pushing up on this river. And this is where we see the collapse of the mutant front over here. But they will hold for now. But let's go ahead and see another thing. For our final event in the video, it's going to be this new anti-colonial alliance forming between majority of Central African nations, and they're just going to be against colonialism because most of these nations were wronged by colonialism. And with these new nations forming, they're like, we could have been colonized. Do you know how scary that is? Our people could have been gone. We're weak tribal nations. We need an alliance to protect us against these colonial powers who could invade. So they're going to form an alliance like so. But that'll be it for today's episode. I hope y'all do like the series so far. This is like peak for me. I love this. I hope y'all love this. Comment down suggestions. I'm trying to make this series as interesting as possible. So, yeah. And also, I'm doing things a little too fast, but I think colonization happening really early was a good thing, especially for my series because of how developed the past civilization before the current civilization that we're using is. And I also think colonizing India would be a good idea. And then Africa, I might change up some things. I don't know how I'm going to work the rest of Africa. Independence might be a thing soon. We might have early independence since we got early colonization. We might have late independence and just a fully colonized world. We don't know yet. I don't know yet. I have a plan for what I'm going to be doing though. It's on my phone, So I have major plans, small plans. Y'all will just see what's happening. But that will be it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Love you all.